This is a video that obviously just about dental scanning and my experience and why you should get one. So start again. So these are some slides that I've thrown together to explain a bit about scanning and why you should be doing it. And this is me, this is Denise, and I could never have done what I did without her, so I always think I ought to give a shout out to Denise. I'll give her a ring later, because I've retired. Anyway, this is the practice that I built out from a squat, so it was part of a semi-detached house, and anyway, extended it, made it into 4 surgeries. That was about 1995, 96. And then we were doing so well, doing 99% NHS work. The NHS said they would give us a grant, 50% capital funding, if we expanded, so we did. But unfortunately, it was, look at the date, it was, when we finished it, they said there was no money left, so we didn't get the capital funding, and also we didn't get any extra UDAs. And relatively soon we found we were going bust because the overheads were higher and the income hadn't changed. So what do you do? Well, I went down this route. So this bit of kit would have cost 70,000 for tattoo removal, because I thought no one's going to keep getting tattoos made. You know, they'll go out of fashion, they'll want them removed, or change boyfriend or girlfriend. Anyway, I didn't go down that route, but it cost about 70,000. I think it was called Ellipse at the time. And this would have been, you know, I was a bit slow to realise I was going bust, probably about 1998. But this is what I did invest in, and as you can see the date there, it's not long before I gave up. I think this is during COVID. But I put a little squiggle at the side there because I think I probably got the CEREC Blue Cam in about 2010. I'm never that good at keeping records, as you can see. But what you can see there behind the chair is a furnace, and worked out after a year when things weren't working well, it was broken. But the milling machine on the top left, it was called MXL mill, it was brilliant. And also when I come to getting the kit, let's see what the next slide is. Yeah, well, when I got the kit, there's a guy called Adrian, who, I think it might have been Adrian Turner, and I met him and he gave a demo, and I asked who was buying it. And unlike what you see now, it's not people doing smile design on your prime scan. It was people who were working, you know, in some relatively deprived areas. And he thought, how are they making it work? Well, what this shows here is one of the first crowns that I did. Now, this patient, his mouth was falling apart. He was unhappy with his previous dentist, you know. So he was really twitchy about doing anything. And a really nice guy, but interesting, an engineer. So he wanted to know what's going on. So he came in one day and he literally had just decoronated the lower right 4 that you can see there. There was nothing left, you know. So back when I was adventurous, what I would do is I'd do a, you know, elective root filling, put in a post to make a crown. And I wasn't keen for that. Anyway, so I just scanned the tooth and said, this won't work, and stuck on, as you can see, a Sirona block. It stayed. So it stayed at least 10 years before I retired. And then if you look at the lower right, I think it's the 8, there's no tooth there. That's just glass ionomer, I'm pretty sure. And used to find those areas under glass ionomers, you'd think, oh, there's decay there. And when you'd remove them, there wasn't. Anyway, what I used to do in the end was I hated taking out teeth. I didn't do implants. And I used to cover them in glass ionomer for a while. And if they had no symptoms, and obviously took a radiograph, make sure they weren't that bad, then I just scanned the tooth. And you can see what I did for the 4, I did for molar teeth as well. And in the end, minimal prep, they were all minimal prep. You just, remove the few enamel prisms that were left. And these things lasted a long time. So yeah, if you're bored already, the reason that you should get one of these scanners is at the final slide. But I went to Sirona World 30. Sirona World 30 means this was the 30th year that they've been using the CEREC system in digital dentistry. And this is 2015. I think this is the video. Now it's a shame that I thought that was a video. No, it is a video. So you get the idea. This was the theatre. I don't think it held the 5,000, but there were 5,000 dentists there. Right, so there were 5,000 there. And let's see if we go on to the next time. Yeah. And when we were there, the other thing that happened was that the Sirona and Dentsply merged, and they did the Nasdaq bell was rung by someone who worked for, well, I think there were two of them, Dentsply and Sirona. But you get an idea of the stage and the size of the event there. I'm not sure if this is similar to your peer review group meetings. And there were breakout things, and I'd never heard of breakout, but we have breakout group meetings. And I learnt a lot there. I also learnt about the Volkskrone, which is basically what I ended up doing. I also learnt that the dentists in the States were cementing some crowns incorrectly. And yes, so 3M made a hybrid crown, and they were cementing it in incorrectly. And instead of them being shown how to do it correctly, they just stopped making the crown. So there's lots of things that go wrong in dentistry, and often it's our fault. This is just what happened here was Sirona brought in, as you can see, all these different bit of kits. It slid in from behind a huge circular screen, dry ice, lasers, the whole lot. And I think it was about $130,000 this. And they sold one there and then, and the guy was 82. Right, so that's even older than me. And this is the kind of stuff that I had. I think I told you about the furnace, but the top left is a camera that I had. It's the second one I had. The first one I had worked well. It was wireless, but when everyone got a mobile phone, they didn't work. So anyway, most of the pictures, not these, but most of the pictures that you'll see are taken using that camera. And this is one of them. And so what I was just trying to show is, what do you do? So this is, unfortunately, is a lad who was about 15, and his teeth were just eroding through all the, Coca-Cola he was having. So I just scanned the tooth, and using the Dahl effect, I thought, well, this, what's the worst that can happen? From my point of view, minimal invasive dentistry is just a step up from prevention, when actually whatever you do can be reversed. You don't lose any tooth tissue. And we didn't. What did happen was you can see it chipped. But the dentinal holes that you can see above it, they were still occluded. And this would certainly have been Lava Ultimate. You can see it polishes up quite well. And what you're going to do, well, I wouldn't do anything there. But when they fail, you can just add a bit of composite if they do fail. So this was just to show my working environment. So this clearly was in the extension. And you can see I had my ozone machine as well as my CEREC. The CEREC made me money. Ozone didn't make me anything. But it was great stuff. I still think it's good. And you can see I had a screen above the chair, which is great for showing you digital x-rays and also using the camera to show people what's going on in their mouth. And you have to be careful because you can say anything, any old stuff, and they'll believe you if you show it on a camera. So if you show a bit of staining, which is just staining, they think the world's going to fall apart. We have to be careful in what we say and what we promise and what they want. So, this, again, this is a patient that I'd seen for a long time. And, in the end, she said, I'm not happy with my front tooth, which is fair enough. So I thought, well, I'll use my scanner. And despite what you think, people just are quite happy with a single coloured tooth. And so this, again, I'm pretty sure this was, it says lava there. What you didn't see was to the left, that was a Procera crown that I did 20 years previously. And so, we've been able to do really good work a long time. And so she was happy with this. It's from a series of slides, and one of the people I saw about 20 years ago, he had fantastic slides showing porcelain being glued to teeth, and I wonder if this will play. Yeah, so this is the kind of thing I was doing, and this is before I left. I thought, well, I'll see what I did, and so I scanned. Now there are so much is wrong with this that we could go through, but it was an early system. I don't think you'd have this now. It would almost certainly automatically bring it up to the the right dimensions and not be quite so flat. So quickly moving on, I think. Yeah. Right, so yeah, let's see. I think this is I did a few of these with erosion, and it's really sad when you get teenagers coming in. I used to take the BWE and say to the parent, your BWE's 010 and your child's is 212. You better stop giving them all that coke. Anyway, I wouldn't say these all worked, and I don't know now, but they certainly work a lot better than nothing at all. And yeah, why not do them? He said it was a bit big at first, but it settled in. It might be the doll, wouldn't it? Right. So you can see I'm having a little bit of trouble working out slides. I'm not sure if this is a film. Oh yeah. So yeah, this is just showing, I'm not even sure what the prep was on this, but I used to have to play around with it a fair bit. I think this process is all automated now, but what was really impressive was how you could play around with the contact point. So you get a far better contact point with these than I would reckon with any composite. And also when you do them, looks like it's finished. When you do them, they only need to be dry for the period that you put the adhesive in. So I never used rubber dam with these. I rarely used rubber dam like most people my age. And this is just showing, if someone came in and they chipped the side of the tooth off, I quickly put in if they had, as in this case, generally chip it off because it's already been restored. You put a retention groove in, and I'd just put in some glass ionomer or sometimes composite, and say when it fails, make a suitable appointment. Now, first off, most people it would fail, and they come back in and say, "Oh, can you just glue a little bit back in like you did before because it lasted 6 years?" And that is often the case. These are a little bit more difficult because if you lost the buccal cusp, as you can see here, you got very little tooth to play around with. But so that you can see, that's what I did. And yeah, I've always, where I could, I've finished clear of the gum margin, and these work really well. Now I think this is a video, yeah. Right, so I also made bridges. Now the material used with the bridge was acrylic. So you had these big blocks that you could make from the acrylic, again in the same milling machine. And a lot of your patients, I know some of you probably do bridges on the health service. The one you can do is a acid etch or Maryland bridge, and you can almost do them in a cost-effective manner. But this chap, there's no way we could do that. And I can't remember how long. Yeah, I think you could see these were held in with posts, and this is someone who I did send off and say, look, you're going to need implants. This isn't going to last. But it did. So this is just, I think this will just be another example. So this is, I used to do what you call inlay onlay, or I call them inlay onlay. So I think this might be where I'd done a root filling and there wasn't much of the tooth left, and I'd use the access cavity to hold the crown in rather than go down to the, to get what's it called, a deep ferrule. And these last really well. And, clearly they don't look brilliant. I mean, that definitely doesn't look brilliant. But I did a lot of these, and again, they work really well. You hang on to far more tooth. Well, this one is just showing someone who came in, and you can see what they did. God knows how they did it. So yeah, given the choice, my normal standard thing would have been back in the day is do an elective root filling, put in a post, what were they called? I've forgotten the name now. Parapost, I struggled a little bit with white posts. I had some failures, like a lot of people. I think it was because generally back then I was putting bonded crowns over the tooth. But this, I don't even know if I gave local for this, but clearly I'd have removed a little bit of the buccal tissue, and everything's very quick. I was used to doing health service work. And then this, I'm not 100% sure which patient this was, but I had someone similar, and I said, this will never work, and you can see that what I'm trying to do there, there's nothing left of the tooth. So my normal criteria was if the tooth tissue was below bone level, then you were screwed. And yeah, you would need a screw. You just an implant. Or in this instance, I wouldn't do an implant. I do a Maryland off the, spoiled for choice there. Probably do actually do just a direct cantilever, standard direct cantilever. But anyway, this crown, I'm not sure how long this one lasted for. I did play around with doing, post crowns, as in a single entity. And you can see the root's fractured as well. But there was no if you can get it dry, then why not bond it and stick something on top? So anyway, one of these did fail, and I remember saying to the patient, "I'm sorry that this just hasn't worked." And that's what I'd say to most of my patients. We'll have to go back to the alternatives. And he said, "No, it never failed, Tony. This lasted 2 years." So people have different perspectives. I think this was just one. Then you could see the furnace. So for the first year, I wasn't getting good results from the putting the Emacs in and staining and glazing them. I did a course on it, and the thing I should have done was, as the chap on the course said, is bring along your nurse. They're far better at painting than you are. And yeah, so this you can see there's a bit of staining on it. It's not the best picture, like most of my pictures, trying to look after a number of people. But anyway, that's the 3, and that's an Emacs. Yeah, and then this would be my standard. I think I told you about glass ionomer. So I just remove the glass ionomer. I was never very good at doing composites, and I've explained elsewhere why. But you can see what you can do. If they haven't had any symptoms for a long time, the X-ray looks okay, then yeah. For this, I did an overlay. It's like I say, it's an art, not a science. But these last extremely well. I did these for 10 years, and get a little bit more adventurous. This one was absolute dog's dinner. This is embarrassing, in that you can see the adhesive. So this chap, I think he was about 80. So, and he just sheared off the tooth. So I haven't got a picture of the sheared tooth, I don't think. But so I just scanned the tooth and glued on. Now, clearly a composite, I should have just put a composite on, because actually that's what's bonded to the tooth. But you think, well, I wonder if I can do this. And actually playing around with your fingers, with your gloves on, that's a game in itself. So I think we've seen that one, and we've seen that one, and we've seen that one. So you can see I just copied these slides off, so clearly I've duplicated them before. So this one's an interesting one, is that the patient had a, well, you can see at the bottom, they had a chrome. And of course, the tooth broke. So I scanned the chrome and I scanned the tooth. And somehow I was able to make the crown with the occlusal rest on it, and did it the same day, and it fitted fine afterwards. That's right. So it's really clever, this stuff. And you can see, yeah, so this is, as I was saying before, this is a kind of an overlay crown. And yeah, it works really well. It saves him having a new denture. This guy, yeah, right. Yeah, he's occlusion, a bite, heavy bite isn't the thing. But anyway, so yeah, I think this was clearly a failure, and I think I probably repaired it with a composite. You can see that it's too thin. Now, for a lot of people, it would have worked, But for this chap, this was a failure, and then I replaced it in the end with an Emax. And the problem with an Emax is you have to fire it up. So generally you can do these crowns in, I used to set aside an hour and a quarter, and that also included my coffee. But if you're doing any other treatment, that's what you do. And you can see there's not much tooth tissue left there, but I haven't gone to the gingival margin. I kept it clear so they can keep it clean. So this was, unfortunately, it was a teenage lad, and suffering with erosion, very thin teeth. So I made the Emax. I don't know if I got the next slide. And whilst it was firing up, I thought, well, both needed doing, right? So this doesn't make me look good. I'll do one with the 3M Lava Ultimate. And you can see which is which there. I haven't got the pre, and I haven't got the post. But basically the Lava one chipped, not the Lava, the Emax chipped. And I do think we get too hung up about the materials being strong. You want them strong enough and no stronger. Somewhere there's pictures of my teeth. Now, I'm not sure, but this is what I'm going to come on to at the end, is that we can use our scanners in different ways, and this is what I'm doing at the moment now I've retired, is I think we can help the people in care homes. 14,000 dentures go missing every year, and if you've ever made a denture for someone with dementia, you want to scan it before they lose it, and then you can do it in one visit. Yeah, and again, like I say, these are no good, and this is a mistake. I mean, they look better than what they had, arguably, but again, this was done on the health service, so don't shoot me. But in retrospect, I think there's another slide. Yeah, what I should was a gingival veneer, and again, you probably know all about this, but I'm pretty sure we can do them from a scan. Yeah, so there are different types of dentures, as you know. So there's flexible dentures, so you use a flexible material. The material on a 3D printer isn't quite there yet. It has to be 3mm wide, I think. But this is one that I made, but this was made in a conventional manner. So this is something different, but you can see the big space. And I went on a course from the dental school because I'd started to do some of these flexible dentures, and I asked the person taking the course what they thought of them and how they got on with them, and of course they hadn't done that, they hadn't made them. And I had this before, I'd go and ask them about what they did with the scanner, and they weren't using one. I'm not sure if they had there was a red cam, which to be honest was rubbish, before the blue cam. And the blue cam was then taken over by the Omnicam, so you don't need a powder and you get colour. The things progress. But yeah, so all these things here, the flexible dentures, well, I did that, and but I didn't get any support from dental hospital. The scanner, certainly no support from them. As you can see, I went to the States, learnt a lot there. Some of it was fascinating in the way that the way that they operate there. The ozone, again, they had an ozone machine at the dental hospital, but they never used it. And I always knew the research was really rubbish on it, but that's a different story. But it does work. But hypochlorite works, but you can't use hypochlorite, can you? Well, that's a different story again. But you can just hypochlorite. You can rinse with hypochlorite. It's just as good as Corsadil. You just want to be careful with your percentages. So this is where I am now. I think, as I said at the start of the slide, you can make money using the scanner or get someone else to use it. So why not get your portable scanner, and when you're not using it and you're on holiday, or you have a day you're not using it and you've got a spare assistant, check out your local care home and see if you can go in and scan their dentures. And while you're there, scan the teeth. There's an awful lot more we can do with this scanning, and it can make it extremely viable. And even as an associate, buy your own. Mine costs 60,000 plus the kit. A scanner now, there are many scanners that get really good reviews under 10,000, and all they will do is they will come down in price and they'll go up in ease of use. And yeah, so, I've made loads of these little videos. But I threw this together, so I hope you like it. And if you want to know more, get back in touch with me. But this is what I'm trying to do, is to develop a dental health service that we can all be proud of and all contribute to. So that's it.